Rainer?
Hello, good evening. Hi, Peter. Hi, Barry. Nice to see you again. Michael, nice to see you. Michael, I'm going to make you co-host here.
There we go.
Michael, it really is a great mic. I tell you, your setup is great.
This is a mic from 1962, and it's the same mic, not the exact mic, but the same model that Elvis used to use to sing to.
Are you going to sing for us later?
I will not be singing. I will not be. That is my wife's department, and
it could be one avenue of outreach, maybe.
it could be a tragedy, more like a.
Hi, Scott. How are you?
I got like a mohawk thing happening here.
We all need a little haircut, don't we?
I should run with it.
Barbara, nice to virtually see your icon.
Barbara, how'd the food drive go? I stopped by on Saturday.
$35 volunteers, 5,000 pounds of food. And then the next day we had 10 people unloading the big truck, sorting and stacking in the basement.
Fabulous. That's great
Yep.
to hear.
Thank you.
You
And
have
lots
quite
of
an operation over there.
And lots of politicians came by.
Good.
And Ralph gave us $500 in gift cards.
Lovely.
Wow, that's great.
I'm out there, guys, big time.
I like that.
Thank you.
It's good for everyone.
I hope.
Are you?
Emily from the library here. That's great. So, Randy, is this being run a different way now, where a lot of people can just join and turn their video on? Because in the past we were like all locked off and had to unmute and.
Sure. So the way it had been previously done, it was as webinars only. So so Zoom has two formats. As a webinar, that would only allow panelists, quote unquote, to be seen on someone's screen. There was certainly those who were interested in being seen, and that it makes it more apropos with the gallery view, and obviously I think for us more engaging if we see who's speaking to us as stakeholders. So the other option is you just host a Zoom meeting. As host, though, you can keep everyone muted. You can decide. So you'll notice everyone as they come into a meeting is automatically muted. We can control if we want to mute everyone, or etc. So I thought that was a better way to go. Unless we have a board meeting or something on a larger format and we feel it's appropriate to go to a webinar. Otherwise, I think we can just keep it as a meeting.
No, I like it. I like seeing everybody who shows up. It's fun. Makes it more fun.
And then the next question will be, we're going to start doing live streaming of our board meetings, certainly. Question is if we want to live stream committee meetings. I think probably we do. But
I'm in favor of it. I think the more access the public has, the better off we are.
saves me a step from having to upload it later tonight. So
I did both of those town halls, and it's like such a long process. You have to, wait for the download and then convert it.
Well, you don't actually have to do that either, because you can, from Zoom, you can save it in the cloud from Zoom and go directly from the cloud to YouTube, for example.
Oh, that's great.
I just learned that. I'm learning all kinds of things about Zoom.
Yeah, I've found out most Zoom things the hard way. Ask my wife.
And the same as we can also have concurrent meetings once I use an API of another app to create a secondary user. So you and I'll go over that probably tomorrow, or Nancy, or at the board, whatever.
Yeah.
Next day or two.
There's Erica Fox. Hello, Erica.
How do I make my video be a video?
Just turn on. In the lower left-hand corner, you will see a start video or a stop video.
Okay. Actually, on the iPad, it's a different place, but okay.
Ah, okay. There you go. Hey, look, you're in outer space. I love it.
I can only see your
I'm a
head.
little
All the
spacey
time.
myself.
All the time.
All right. I think we should just get started because we have so much to cover tonight. And I don't want to run us too long. I'm going to start with a little statement, and then we'll roll into public comment and see where we're at on time and rearrange accordingly. So thank you all for coming. This is a new era for outreach. I want to first thank the new SCNC president, Randy Freed, for having his trust in me to appoint me to this chair. I'm going to talk for a few minutes here to allow you guys to think about how you might contribute to the committee before we get on to the process of establishing new members, and we have a few fun surprises tonight. I chose to do something unusual for the relaunch of outreach. If you notice on the agenda, there are no committee members listed. This is highly unusual, and we had to actually dig through some rules and to understand if A, it was even possible, and B, if the implications were for actually getting work done. But thankfully we figured it out and we're all good. Too often we hear, the complaint we hear at local government is that we don't listen, and that the board members have their own agenda or the course is somehow predetermined. And my thought was, by not seating a committee before this first meeting, we'd send a clear message that we're starting over here. Nothing is decided. Everyone on this call has as much to say in the course we set as the next person. This is your committee that belongs to the people of Studio City. And on the day I'm sitting here agreeing to guide this committee, I would tell you that I look forward to the day I get to hand this committee off, this leadership off to the next person, because I'm anxious to see what the next person does with what we forged together here tonight. The nature of any elected office is to be a custodian, to tend to the public need, and then you pay it forward. And the more time I spend on the board, the more I've come to the realization that these committees are best staffed by people who are not board members, but community activists, and not in the sense of protesters or disgruntled citizens, but people who are active in the direction their government takes for its citizens. We represent you, the stakeholder. This is your government, and the only way it gets better is through your work, through your volunteerism and your activism. So what will we do between today, the day I officially take the chair of outreach, and the day I step away from it? What will we achieve? How will we improve the connection between the stakeholders and the city? How will we ensure that every citizen of Studio City feels like it has a voice in its direction? That's our job here. This doesn't mean that everyone gets what they want, far from it, but it does mean that everyone feels heard, and we establish the direction and make the critical decisions on the way forward. I'm not going to get to accomplish every goal I've set, but I will feel, as will you, that I've been heard, that my ideas were considered as we set pen to paper and begin the hard work of outreach. It's my promise as the new chair that your ideas, your opinions will too be heard and discussed. And I would ask that any discouragement that you feel along the way is calmed by the idea that we're working together for the best interest of the community, of the stakeholders. Always feel free that you can email me or call me to discuss an idea that maybe got cast aside along the way, because an idea that got tossed out one minute can come back in the next project in a different form. So nothing ever really gets discarded. We just start shaping things in different ways. And as we take these first steps, the question I pose to everyone to think about is, who is responsible for outreach? Is it the committee? Is it the chair? Is it the committee members? Is it the Senc president? And the answer to me is none of the above and all of the above. We are all responsible, everyone on this call and everyone not on this call, for outreach. As stakeholders, we have a responsibility to make connections to our community and to make sure that those without a voice are being heard. And my point is this: even if you decide not to become a part of the formal committee tonight, I would ask that you attend and contribute to these meetings because they're yours. There are several attendees I want to thank before we begin public comment and the process of staffing and other stuff. Emily Aronson, I know, is here, and Veronica may have made it from the Studio City Public Library. And hopefully Julia Monroy Cantor, I don't see her, but maybe she's here. And also Adam Monick from the Studio City Rec Center. One of the first initiatives I feel is important is to unite all of Studio City's assets as we reestablish these vital connections to the stakeholders. And all four of those people are stakeholders of Studio City. We welcome and encourage the participation of the library and the rec center in this outreach committee. We're all in the business of connecting with our citizens. I want to thank my fellow board members for their support and contributions. Without their help, we would not be able to get the business of the difficult job of outreach working again. And I want to thank my wife and former outreach chair, Allie Spots-DeLazar, for her contributions to outreach and for putting up with me spending so much of our time in the service of the council. One last note on staffing the committee would be that I'd first ask if you seriously want to join the committee, and we want you to join and be a part of the committee, just make sure that you can dedicate the one night a month we have these meetings, because we have to establish quorum. We have to have the majority of the committee present in order to be able to act as a body. It's a city thing. So if you have commitments that consistently cause a conflict, maybe don't join the committee, but continue to participate in the committee. Just because you're not listed as a committee member doesn't mean that you're not an active and vibrant part of the committee. And with that, I'm going to open it up for public comment. This is free mic time for anybody who has anything they want to say or talk about with regard to outreach, and then we're going to move on to seating the committee and some other stuff. And I would just say raise your hand or anything if you have public comment.
If you're on a dial-in phone, you can press #9 and that will raise your hand as well.
Good to know. Well, you really have learned a lot about outreach. We have a caller, who I'm going to unmute. This is off the phone. I don't have a name for you, sir.
Hi, this is Julie Monroy. I don't know if
Yes.
are you
Julie.
able to hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm trying to join the actual Zoom meeting. It was not working, so I had to dial it in. Both Adam and myself, on behalf of Studio City Recreation Center, we're really excited that, you know, we have met a couple of times, and I know the new committee is looking forward to partnering with us this coming year, and we're very excited. We've had some falls in the past with the neighborhood council, but I'm sure that this year is going to be different, and both of us look forward to coming to the meetings. Hopefully, you know, if we have past COVID
Yes.
meetings in the coming months, you know, look forward to meeting you all in person, and just very excited. We're looking forward to working with everyone and bringing more events for the community. 6 foot apart.
I would echo that sentiment. We're really excited to forge a brand new partnership and really unite our resources. And I'd even encourage a representative from, it doesn't have to be tonight, but a representative from both the rec center and the library to sit on the committee. I think that can also really help pin our organizations together. It doesn't have to be tonight, but something to think about for sure. Is there another public comment? Scott, go for it.
Actually, I have a question that will help me ask my next question. Is this outreach committee, do you guys do the outreach for the other committees to let us know what's going on with those, or is outreach separate and distinct from what's going on with all the other committees? Are you the clearinghouse for that?
I think that's one of the things we're going to discuss tonight. I think we're going to decide how is it that we want to contribute to the other committees. There are some committees, I think, that feel that they want to kind of be in control of their message, and then there are others who are looking for guidance and help. And I'm all for any of the above. I think it's healthy to have the committees talking to each other. Randy might have a thought on this as board president. I'd love to hear his thoughts.
Sure, I do. Michael, is almost like a perfect handoff. So, Scott, it's a great question. I think that unfortunately sometimes the problem in local government or any organization is, and as you well know, right, is you end up having silos. People have their little feet, you know, we could even criticize the city council for this if you wanted to go down that avenue, but I'll stay away from that for the moment. People kind of sticking to their own little fiefdom, and in theory, maybe they're talking, but there's no real instruction to. So my intent specifically for neighborhood council is that every committee should work with outreach, and every committee should be talking to each other, but specifically with outreach, because again, to emphasize what Michael said so beautifully, is that our job is to really, as an advisory body to the city council, if we really expect our voice to be heard and perhaps even acted upon, we have to have more people tuning in and joining in the cause, if you will, whatever that cause may be. And the only way that gets done is through outreach. And so whether it's public safety, whether it's government affairs, whether it's land use that brings an issue forward from the community, homelessness that's concerning, we need to utilize our outreach, because if outreach is doing its job correctly, then it means it's utilizing all of social media, whether it's a talking head video, whether it's email blasts, etc., to help amplify the message of the other committees. So that my intent is that it will be a clearinghouse for, or a repeater might be a better word, of messaging coming from other committees in terms of soliciting and engaging with stakeholders. Does that answer your question?
Yes, let me have a follow-up if you don't mind. I'm on the outside looking in. So I think based on what Michael was saying, I might be that type of person you guys are looking to connect with, who wants to get involved, who wants to get on a committee. And Randy, with what you just said about the clearinghouse or an aggregator, I think it works great both ways, because there are things that a lot of people I know, they're very interested in. And then you go to the website and you see there's quite a few committees. And it's like, well, who do I contact? And having the outreach as the intermediary between those on the outside looking to get in, to field the contact and sort of direct it to the appropriate committee with the back and forth, I think would be helpful. I think it would encourage me and other individuals who are on the outside looking to get in to make it through that wall, get inside and have our voices heard and participate. I'm looking to participate, and I'm looking at all the different committees, and really, I mean, not knowing all the rules, that's why I asked that question. So I appreciate the dialogue right now. So
Yeah, and I really don't want anybody to feel like they're on the outside. You all have my email address, and the second you email me, you're in. We're talking. We're having a discussion. We're opening up the same avenues of conversation that I have with Randy or any of the board members. Your thoughts and your input is important to me as a board member. And I want participation. I want guys like Scott, who is able and willing to join us in any way he sees fit to jump on in. It's the water's warm. As is the air outside today, you know. I really want everybody to feel like this is something we're doing today that is all of us together. We're taking a big step forward as one today, and opening up the doors and saying, "Come on in, folks. Come on in. We want you to be a part of this, of what we're doing, and it's all about you anyway. It's all about all of us." So.
okay.
Barbara. Oh, we got to unmute you, Darren.
Yeah.
There you go.
How do we facilitate outreach to the greater community, and equally important, how do we convert the outreach to engagement?
That's our job. That's what we're going to, that's really what we're, the ground floor of what we're going to build starting tonight. We have to decide how we're going to do that. We have some monies we can spend to help assist that, and some promotional things we can do to make people aware. Nancy has been really adamant about getting some sort of mailer out. That's a possibility. We potentially have money from the COVID money that the mayor gave us that is perfectly usable for outreach in this time while we are still under these restrictions as a community. So I think the table is wide open for how we decide to service outreach and how to enact it.
I think if I can add to that, Barbara, specifically, I think that in conversations with Michael and with several other board members, I think first and foremost that what the Scnc has suffered from is not listening, not being inclusive, not tolerating less than appropriate language, even in how we talk to people. we have had board members say inappropriate, go on verbal attacks against other stakeholders or members of other elements of the city. That's not appropriate. So to answer your question specifically, the first part is, I think, saying again and again, thank you, we want to listen. And then the follow-up is actually listening and engaging. So whether that's meeting a stakeholder on a random day of the week in a baseball field and having a chat socially distanced appropriately, or taking phone calls or taking emails, and just listening to people. And then initially trying to move forward with saying and repeating that we have to be respectful. We have to hear. Our job is to listen to you. Additionally, then just, again, my big thing for this year especially, really is to be inclusive. I don't believe that the Scnc historically, although there may be many great works that and things they've accomplished in the past, I do unfortunately think that it has suffered from, in recent years, of being a small group of people just circling from one position to a next, and not necessarily really caring about you and your opinion, or seeking out new people for positions. And that's something as well that works. So we're going to try to invite as many people, I mean, all of you on this call, anyone who's willing to take a position on a committee, or maybe it's to chair something if it's down the line, we have a conversation about it, or running for the board, whatever it may be, to just encourage participation.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? I'm sorry, I don't have your name.
Alexandria Smith is who I see.
I'm going to ask you to unmute and then let you go. Oh, let's try that. There we go.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, go for it, Alexandria.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi. My name Alexandria Nassif. My Smith is my maiden name, so clearly I haven't updated it on Zoom as well as everything else. I actually live in Sherman Oaks, and I am a member of the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council Education Committee. So we have a few things going on with our education committee, but basically I am here to just share some information about myself and our committee. I'm also a mom of 2 girls, a 6-year-old, almost 6-year-old, and almost 1-year-old. And I'm also an LAUSD substitute teacher. So I've taught all across the San Fernando Valley. Try to stay close to home though, but yeah, so thank you. Thank you for having this meeting.
Thanks for coming. We appreciate it. Mark Fisher. We have to unmute you, sir. There you go.
Hi, not wanting to get too theoretical, but just a question. For a baseline, is there a stated mission of the committee?
That is an item on the agenda tonight, is the mission statement.
All right.
So stick around. We'll get to shape it. We'll get to look at what it is today and decide if there's anything we want to do with it.
Very cool. Thanks.
Great. Okay, so with that, I'm going to, now because we don't have everybody on video, I have no way of knowing if, I need you all to raise your hand if joining this committee and being a committee member is something that would be of interest to you. Because we need to staff this committee. I need everybody who is available who wants to participate to come on in and join. So don't all volunteer at once.
Oh, you're asking us to?
Yes. Okay, so we have Nancy Kramer. Nancy, are you going to be on the committee?
I would love to be on the committee if you'll have me.
I love that. Okay, so we have Nancy Kramer.
Your other hand, your blue hand.
Oh yes, and my wife is down below. She wants to join. That's Allie Spots.
That's always a positive thing.
That's always a good thing. That's gonna make things a little easier around the house. Anybody else who's willing to join? Alexandria, would you like to? That's great. I love it.
I don't live in Studio City, but I guess Mark answer that or ask that question that I had already earlier. So.
Okay. And Mark, are you in? I love that. Great. Welcome, Mark.
Me?
Raduca, you in? I love it. Fantastic. Is somebody writing all these names down? Because I'm watching windows and I'm watching for hands. Please volunteer.
Do you need me to take notes?
Could you?
Yes.
She says. Randy is an ex officio.
It's automatic.
He's automatically on the committee. He has no choice. He has to join every committee.
But I want to be. I mean, you'll just be subjected to my talking head videos probably on all holidays and every now and again.
I like it. I like it. So, anybody else before we jump forward here to the next?
Is the meeting night to be the first Monday of the month?
It's going to be the first Monday or the first. No, it's going to be the second Monday or the second Tuesday. We're sort of, because of the COVID situation, I did not want to cross with the homelessness committee that meets on Tuesday nights during this period. So I have shifted it to Monday because bylaws is usually a shorter meeting generally. And they may go down to fewer meetings as we go forward too, now that the bylaws have passed.
Well, and if this is not the second Monday, this is the first Monday. So if they do the first Monday and you do the second Monday, there's no conflict.
Unless there's a holiday, lots of Monday holidays.
Yeah. So I think the intent would be the second Monday for us because it puts us closer to the board meeting. And we need to have our any financial requests in prior to the board meeting so it can get approved.
Will you be constrained by the board of the quorum rules, or can we ignore that?
We cannot have more than. Nancy, you do no more than 4?
The quorum of the quorum rule is still in effect, and you're right. You can't because you're on the board and Randy's on the board, so you can only have 2 board members or 1 board member. No more than
That's
4,
why
so 2 more board members.
That's why I didn't. I'll just help out. I don't want to be a board.
Okay.
What, Allie? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I didn't. Raduca, you're on the board too. So can I recap? Let me just make sure I have this. Randy Freed, Allie, Scott Mandel, Nancy Kramer, Mark Fisher, Raduca Kaplan, Alexandria Smith. Did I miss anyone?
Me.
That's a given.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I
Thank
count
you.
towards a board member. So we're at the max as far as board members are concerned.
Yep.
But anybody else can still join.
Right.
And that gives us a total of how many?
7?
8, including Michael.
Okay.
Well, Randy, I included you too.
Oh,
7.
yeah.
7.
Okay, so let's close this off as the committee for right now. If, by the way, if you feel in the future that you want to join the committee, send us an email. You know, this is not a locked off, decided thing by any sense of the stretch of the imagination. It's an open. This is an open outreach committee, and it's all about inclusion, not separation. We're really trying to get the inclusion thing down. So we welcome new committee members, and before we go too much further, Erica, don't run away. I need to get, because I want to do something before Erica has to leave. She's only here for the first hour.
Where is she?
She just stepped out of the frame. There she is.
Oh, there's Erica.
Erica, how are you? I'm gonna unmute you. Okay. One of the things, we're going to do some fun stuff with outreach. Part of this is we're going to have a good time along the way. And one of the things we're going to start doing as a board and as a committee is saying thank you. We're gonna say thank you to people when they do something that's really extraordinary. And one of the things we're doing is we're going to establish an Outstanding Community Service Award for people who go above and beyond and do something really outside the box and unexpected, and that has an impact on the community. And I'm happy to announce that our first recipients will be Bipasha Shrom and Erica Fox for their contributions. And I'm going to read a little something that the Studio City Neighborhood Council is going to honor, and Randy will honor. And let's see if I can do this without messing. Here it is. Okay. This is a proclamation from the Studio City Neighborhood Council that reads, whereas a Studio City event called the Juneteenth Walk was held on the weekend of June 19th, 2020, whereas Bipasha, I hope I get her name right, Bipasha Shom and Erica Fox were the creators and principal organizers behind the event, whereas the event brought together stakeholders of Studio City in an inspirational and educational walk through the Colfax Meadows community, whereas 25 informational posts were crafted and posted along a designated route highlighting important African Americans who shaped the 4-century-long pursuit of civil rights for all Americans. There's a page 2. Be it proclaimed that the Studio City Neighborhood Council recognizes Bipasha Shrom and Erica Fox for their outstanding community service for the Juneteenth Walk. The Studio City Neighborhood Council appreciates the hard work and thoughtful effort that went into creating this extraordinary event. The Studio City Neighborhood Council believes Bipasha Shrom and Erica Fox represent the best of what Studio City stakeholders offer. One last thing. Hereby, the Studio City Neighborhood Council awards its inaugural award for outstanding community service to Bipasha Shrom and Erica Fox. So we want to...
That's very exciting. That's great.
This is the type of thing we can do, because what you guys did, if you guys, I'm sorry if anybody missed the Juneteenth walk they established, that they put on in Colfax Meadows, but it was a long walk.
It's my running route. Yeah.
Oh, she's in good shape. There will be, by the way, there will be a plaque to go with this that we will figure out how to get you in a socially distanced way, and as well as a certificate from the council. And I'm just thrilled that we're really turning a page towards recognition of our stakeholders who really do outstanding work. And can you tell us a little bit?
I just want to introduce you to my daughter, except she's
Please do.
Come down here, because if you want down here now. Yeah, I don't care if they can hear me. I need you to come downstairs. Anyway,
Erica, that walk was awesome. I loved it. I learned so much on it. I have a new female hero. It was just awesome. Thank you.
Can you tell everybody here how this walk came about and why you decided to do it?
We did it because Bipasha is on this is my daughter. She and her friends helped us. They made all the posters. There, you can wave to everybody. That's Macy Newby. She and her friends made the posters and hung everything up with us. So, okay, she's gonna go away because she's annoying. She's sewing. Okay, anyway, so what happened was that Bipasha is on the 4th of July committee. You know, they do this thing where they drive around and they have kids on bikes. They have a parade, and they knew it wasn't happening because of COVID. So she came to me and she said, hey, let's do Juneteenth. And I said, okay, I'll do this thing. I'll make a race. I'll make a virtual race, and and at the end, instead of getting a thing, we'll raise money. We'll say, donate to, some, Black Lives Matter or NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And then I thought, you know what, I'm not going to do that. Because I don't know how anybody will know the route. So I said, okay, I'll make markers, and at every turn there'll be a marker. And so it was actually longer. But I started to get very anxious because I had to write 30 markers at that point. So anyway, it got cut down to 25 markers, and I had to research that. Bipasha did her garage about reconstruction, and she got the people on the 4th of July committee to, she organized them all. So they were the chalkers, they were the Xerox people, they did the flyers. They did all of everything, and I did the, somewhere along the way, the walk became the thing. I saw an email go out, and I was like, oh my God, but it was okay. So anyway, but it was great, and we were very supported by the 4th of July committee, and Studio City Residents Association sent out a notice about it, and that was very nice of them, and. It's one of those things where if you thought about what you were doing, you might not do it, but we didn't think. I just was like, oh, okay. And that's what we did.
It was a terrific thing. So thank you from the Studio City Neighborhood Council. Like, as I said, we're working, one of the things we're going to talk about tonight is a plaque, and then a certificate that will go along with it.
It's totally unnecessary, but it's very
I understand that, but this is a new era of outreach, and one of the things I want to do is formally recognize people. And if you have somebody that this goes out to everybody on this call. If you have somebody that that deserves an honor of some sort, please. We want to hear good stories. We all need some really good stories now, don't we? Let's hear the good stories, and we'll see what we can do. I may not do this every week, or every month, but I want to make this a habit of ours going forward, especially as an outreach committee, that we have gratitude towards people and say thank you.
I do. Am I allowed to talk?
Yes.
Oh, I do want to say that it really was this community that came together, and what I would kind of like to see next year is that we either move where the walk is, to various parts of wherever, or we just multiply it. But I think that, and the event, we want it to be bigger. And then we want, because everybody did their things around the, people put their plaques up along the way, and that was really fantastic. So we envision it being that, but I would like to see something like this,
Stay with outreach. You have to participate.
And the good news is, Erica, actually, not only does
I'm going to close it so they're not hearing.
Not only does the Scnc think that it was a great event, Councilman Paul Krikorian's office also thinks it's a great event, and along with a plaque from us, we'll be receiving a certificate from the city of Los Angeles, because what you did is noteworthy. The reality is that although many of us will perhaps sit in our own living rooms and talk about, oh, I'm inclusive, oh, I'm well educated, oh, I know, the fact is you went out and did something, and actually helped people really learn more, really connect as a community. You mentioned that the community all came together. Well, they came together because of you. So it's worth being commended, and stick with outreach. And we hope that we will perhaps even join maybe Sherman Oaks. I'm sure if they didn't do something already, perhaps they'll want, and we'll talk to, I happen to have just met someone from Sherman Oaks who's also a teacher. So she may also want to help and join, and maybe this will be something that we can grow throughout the Valley, because I think, again, when you talk about inclusivity and learning about the other, it's something we oftentimes don't do enough. So thank you very much. Really, you're to be commended for it.
It was a thrill, I have to say. It was a wonderful feeling to see people, actually come out and take the walk. So
wonderful. Well, thank you, and And that's what I have for you today. That's why I wanted to catch you before you ran off, because I know you got things, you have other things going on tonight. So let's jump back on our agenda now to we're going to talk about goals. This is item 4, and one of the things we're going to talk about is the mission statement. As it stands right now, our mission statement is, here we go. And of course I haven't written it out. I got to try and read it off this small monitor. The mission of the SCNC Outreach Committee is to increase stakeholders' involvement in and awareness of issues affecting the SCNC and the greater Studio City area by sharing information about meetings, events, and issues directly with the public, connecting stakeholders to the board and the city public officials, leveraging social media, and increasing community partnerships and connections in the Studio City and neighboring areas. How does everybody feel about that? It's a pretty good mission statement. I don't know that it needs, a major reworking to my thinking, but I want to hear thoughts. And anybody have thoughts about what's there? Maybe can I share that? I don't know if I can or not.
Yeah, you kind of need to make it bigger.
You can. You should be able to share your screen, Michael.
Yeah, I can share a screen that's open on the desktop. Let me.
If you pin his video, it gets bigger.
Share, it's going to ask you if you want your desktop or just a certain application, or it should at least.
Oh, spotlight video maybe. There you go. Did that do anything for you?
Yes.
Looks wonderful.
That's not a super old mission statement. We did that when during my brief 2 months.
So I didn't know that it needed crazy, because it was considered just about 6 months ago. But this is our opportunity to maybe make any adjustments or additions to it as we see fit.
Can you read it again? Because I think it comes down to what are we willing to do? What, do we have people like Raduca's kicking butt on social media? So that's covered, but maybe not all of them are covered. And we want to, as Randy said, pick the low hanging fruit. I'm not sure, but can you read it again?
Sure. The mission of the SCNC Outreach Committee is to increase stakeholder involvement increase stakeholder involvement in and awareness of issues affecting the SCNC and the greater Studio City area by sharing information about meetings, events, and issues directly with the public, connecting stakeholders to the board and city public officials, leveraging social media, and increasing community partnerships and connections in Studio City and neighboring areas. Nancy Kramer has raised her hand. I'm going to exit this. Hey, gallery view. There we go. Okay, so I think everybody's back now.
I'm kind of wondering, I don't think we should lower our ambitions because we don't have people. I think we should find people to fulfill our ambitions. But I'm wondering the difference between leveraging social media and sharing information. I kind of feel like they're the same thing.
They're a method of, certainly. One is the actionable tool and the other is what we're doing, the process, right?
Yes, but I think that that's probably just one of the processes. And I think that that's the whole idea, is that we need to expand those processes because for instance, Juneteenth walk, I never even knew about because I'm not on social media. So I think we need to broaden it can't just be social media. And in that mission statement, it almost feels like that's the push. That's all.
If you were an SCRA member, you would have known about it.
I know I'm not. Yes, correct, I'm not.
And we did actually post it on the Studio City page once Allie and I went. We took some pictures and posted.
I'm not
besides
really,
the point. I get
this
it.
isn't like an after, yeah.
Yeah. No, Nancy, I'm with you. What are the main modes beside our social media channels and possibly next door? Broadening that outreach, where are the communication channels beyond those?
That's our job, is to figure that out right now. And that's why it's pushing the postcards so much, because I think we need to reach out to the stakeholders and ask them how they want to be in communication. And it could be a text message, it could be the direct emails, but if we don't communicate with all of the stakeholders and find out how they want to be engaged, we won't know.
At a previous meeting, the way I agree, Nancy, 100%. I don't think we are reaching the social medias other than the people who are on social media. And we were talking with Brian about printing something and literally delivering it to every house in Studio City. And from there, we can have in that, and I think that has to be done on a regular basis. I don't know how often, but not once every 2 years, but maybe once every 6 months, and put some money to it, because certainly before we're talking about events, and we tried this where we had events and then people were taking signatures, and that was not the most efficient way, because I don't know. So I really think of something where we print and we get people to connect is one very good way to do it, but we have never done it, at least since I've been around.
And may I add, Raduca, to that? To do a residential mailing, that's a lot of money. We're talking like $5,000-6,000 to do that. But from that mailing, if we find out who wants to receive their information via printed, then that mailing will be much smaller and much more affordable.
Well, how do you do that? I'm curious. I don't have any opinion. I don't know. I was willing to go and connect with schools. We were talking about that. Now with COVID, it's less. And connecting with businesses. There were some people from the previous outreach, but those things never actually ultimately happen. And the only thing that's really happening.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet, correct, not yet. So I'm bringing forward what we already discussed before and see which ones we want to go forward with or not.
Alexandra.
Hi, thank you. So just a quick little bit of information. So for Sherman Oaks, we have what we call the ZIF flyer in honor of our previous president who passed due to complications from COVID. So we have the ZIF flyer that we post out monthly on our website. This is actually something that we've been working on our education committee and on our board and outreach committees as well, is trying to figure out how to reach people. So I think what one of you all said was reaching out to the libraries, the schools, businesses, because they already have access to a database of people, like, LAUSD. And then, but in regards to the mission, I really believe that it's important to remember that a budget is a moral code and a moral document, and it states what you care about and what you're willing to put work and effort towards. So I think it doesn't have to be very specific, but just noting that funding or financial support will go towards things that are important to Studio City stakeholders. One thing we did in Sherman Oaks was we provided the materials to create masks for some of our healthcare workers. The education committee is working to pass a food grant program, which is going to provide, through an application process, provide LAUSD families with Ralph's or Walmart gift cards to supplement general food insecurities that come along with summer, but obviously coronavirus pandemic. So yeah, there's a lot of things that we can do, but I think stating that we're going to back these financially is I think it says a lot more than, or at least it definitely supplements, supporting things online and statements and things like that.
Well, anything we come up with today, we're going. I have a budget. I have an item 10 on the agenda, which is budget request, which is that's kind of my blind spot. I'm hoping Nancy, 'cause she knows so much about these processes.
Well, actually, Richard maybe.
And Richard, yeah, Richard too. I'm hoping that we can actually put the money in motion once we decide what we want to do through that 10th item on the agenda tonight. So, the first thing is it sounds to me like we're okay with the mission statement, but maybe remove the line about social media because we're going to incorporate other use all of the above as far as communicating. So stating social media specifically is, yes, I'm sorry, Erica.
Well, to me, the mission statement sounds a little too passive, as if you're just passing along the information as opposed to engaging people and making things happen.
And spending.
Increase fader. So increase. The first part of the statement. Well, let me go back to it. I've got too many windows tonight. Okay, so the first part of the statement is. I'm going to do this again.
I think it's okay.
Video. Okay. The first part of the statement was increase stakeholder involvement. Maybe it's engage. Do we alter that to say something like, and I can't type on the screen while we go, unfortunately, I'm not that gifted. I'm doing this offline, but is to engage and increase stakeholder involvement? Anybody thoughts on that? Go ahead.
Oh, good. It's unmuted. Sorry. I think just engage stakeholders. Just no increased stakeholder involvement, just straightforward engage stakeholders, but then we have to figure out what the in is. Is it awareness of issues affecting the SCNC and the greater Studio City area? That does feel really passive. We went with what we had at that time, but things evolve, thank God.
You could say engage stakeholder involvement in issues affecting the SCNC and the greater Studio City area.
But is it just issues? It's also events, it's celebrations. Like, we got to bring in the joy somewhere else. This thing is just heavy.
Issues and events.
What?
Issues and events.
Yeah.
Well, we already are saying sharing information about meetings, events, and issues. Like, we are very redundant there. We have verbs which are active. I don't see about passive about sharing, connecting, and increasing.
I have a thought for the end. So if we started it with the mission of the SCNC Outreach Committee is to engage stakeholder involvement in issues and events, I'd love to add and encourage participation.
Yeah, I actually would wonder about saying in the very first line, we mentioned an awareness of issues affecting the SCNC and the greater Studio City area. We're making a bifurcation there that I actually don't think is appropriate.
Correct.
I agree.
The SCNC we are Peter Cole and Barry Johnson and Allie and Scott Mandel and all of the stakeholders. We are representing them. So I don't believe that we should say awareness of issues affecting the SCNC. I would cut that out. I would just say stakeholder involvement in and awareness of issues affecting Studio City and perhaps our greater community if you really want.
Yeah, because we cannot rule out Sherman Oaks now.
Well, I mean, look, there are issues that affect us, and there are issues that we could, just for example, in the last meeting, because purely as an example, because of the greater tone, if you will, of discourse in our city and in our country, the people's budget was an issue that ended up on Studio City Neighborhood Council agenda. So that's something that doesn't only affect Studio City, obviously that's our greater community. So I would just say affecting the SCNC or affecting Studio City and the greater community of LA if you want, or just greater community, whatever. But I would vote to cut SCNC out of this statement.
Yeah.
Can I suggest that we step it back, and nowhere in here are we talking about awareness of the SCNC itself. And I think there are many citizens, many community members that don't know what the SCNC is.
Good point.
So maybe awareness of the SCNC and issues and events, etc. However it's worded.
Or that could be a bullet point below. That could actually be one of the bullet points below, because by one of the methods that we are going to encourage people is by making them aware of our of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So we could add
Bolstering awareness of the SCNC and its mission, or something like that.
Bolstering awareness of the SCNC and its mission.
Presence in the community.
Let me see if I can do this.
Maybe purpose, not mission.
Purpose. That's good.
Oh, that's good. Purpose. Yeah.
It's
Okay,
Article
so
2.
let me see if I can do this. If I
Nancy.
create a new document and I place that in there, can I share that window? Share screen.
I think you can post it in the, if everyone went to chat, you could post it on the chat.
Did that do anything?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't see it, but I don't know how to get out of this now. Okay, we're screen sharing. Okay, so do you see the mission statement? Is that what you're looking at? Because I can't see anything right now. No.
You know, I think we're reading it. I think I would pull out "and events" because it just gets too confusing on the mission statement. They're in the bullet hole, as Ruduka pointed out, they're in the bullet, so it's okay. The mission of the SCNC Outreach Committee is to engage stakeholder involvement and encourage participation in, I thought it was just to engage stakeholder involvement and encourage, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's worse than before. I mean, in some ways. I'm sorry, but sorry, Michael.
No, I look, that's why we're working on it, darling. That's why we're working on it.
Stakeholder involvment. It's
right.
such a fluffy thing. Engage stakeholder involvement. I mean, it's scratching your head what it means. I mean, I understand it, but it's like, we need to increase stakeholder involvement. That was a good word, increase it. I mean, it's of course by engaging people, but I don't know what engage stakeholder involvement means. I'm sorry. Our problem from outreach was, and possibly remains, is to really increase the number of participation. It's like, that's, and.
So how about that?
Yeah, increase stakeholder involvement and encourage participation, yeah.
But then we've got in issues and events.
Yeah, I know.
Too much.
Now I'm forgetting the previous thing. It just was, I guess.
I would like, not do this like in the whole group and everybody maybe goes away and does it because, or comes back with it, or, I don't know. I think this is very hard to do with this many people on a screen, but maybe I'm wrong.
You know what, Erica, it is hard to do, and this kind of shapes the direction of what the committee does. So I agree, but it's
not. Okay, so we don't like issues and events. That's a problem. That was.
Yeah.
I'm going to get the problem areas at least noted, and then we can work on this maybe offline, a smaller group of us, and
Yeah,
present it at the next one?
I think you need to figure out what you want to be doing. That if you know what you want this committee to do, you need to say it.
Right.
Oh, I know.
So, oh no.
Oh, I'm happy to tell you the burden and privilege as president. I absolutely do know. I think Mark Fisher had part one is hit the nail on the head of informing stakeholders of who the SCNC is and what we do. I think that for many stakeholders, and I don't think that Studio City is unique in this, some neighborhoods are certainly better than others. Maybe Venice is probably the best in the neighborhood council system. But frankly, many neighborhood councils, and you could argue what the motivation is, but most stakeholders have never even heard of the neighborhood council, much less know what they do. So first and foremost, again, and I've said this to a lot of people, Erica, and I've said to everyone, if the SCNC does what it's supposed to do, which is to really amplify the voice of stakeholders, to bring our issues and concerns forward to the city council, then we have to let stakeholders know that that's actually something we do and actually have the capacity to do. And in fact, the city even favors us. If you go to speak to City Hall, for example, well, virtually now, you get 1 minute. But in the old days, you'd go to City Hall and you'd have to stand for 1 minute. A representative from a neighborhood council, if I went, and I'm not special, so it could be anyone from the neighborhood council, they actually let you sit down, used to let you sit down at a table and you get 5 minutes. Because they recognize the power of the system that they created, although I guess the joke's on stakeholders, most don't even know it exists. So for me, priority number one is to let stakeholders know we exist and we want to listen to you and we want to bring and amplify your message. Yes. That to me is like full stop. Like that's priority number one. Events are, everything additionally is to help encourage engagement and create a sense of community, such as events. But first and foremost is that we exist and hear the issues that we exist and hear the issues that affect you and I, right? I live in Landale Square. I'm a stakeholder just like you are. And so to me, that's the priority. That's the big first and, the big ticket item, if you will, is letting people know we exist. We're here to advocate on your behalf. Sure, do I have opinions on issues one way or the other, like every other board member? Of course, but that's not my job. My job is to as eloquently as possible, represent your views and the issue and the views of every other stakeholder. And, if Krikorian's team, or whether they like it or not, or whoever it might be, if they're more willing to take my call because they have to, then fine. But I'm going to echo your concerns, not just mine.
Okay.
So as that adds to the mission statement, I would just say we should include in the mission statement. I think the first part is great. I also agree with you, Erica, that it sounds a little passive. I think it should be not just about informing. We should shape the mission statement. I have a suggestion, and maybe we work on its homework, and then our teacher will let us know when we have to turn it in. But thank you for smiling at my joke. It's a dad joke, I admit. I think that we have to. Here it is, to increase awareness of the SNC board and support matters that impact studio stakeholders in our local Los Angeles area. I think, leave it to the teachers, I tell you. I think that's well said, and I think
rough draft.
I think stakeholder involvement is, just looking at comments, which I appreciate. Yeah, so there's a couple comments. I just want to bounce on a couple comments about corporate lingo is off-putting. Aris, I agree with you. Peter Cole, you're right. NCs are off-putting when they appear as a stuffy part of the city. That's why we have to be, I think, a little bit more
conversational.
We have to be more conversational, and I think being easy. I mean, even if it sounds cliche, I think that we prove it's not cliche by our actions, right? I think that most people, stakeholders, some myself included, would say, I get a lot of great lip service from the city about how they're going to do something or say something, but there's lack of follow through or follow up. So I think maybe less is more, and we prove it in our work and not in our mission statement. But I'll leave it to the chair. I've already talked too much.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate the thoughts. I think what we do then, let's table this for now. We have some different thoughts in the chat, which will all be saved, and we can bounce it off, and we'll send some language around internally offline once we get out of the meeting, and we'll have something probably a little more hammered out by the next meeting next month, and we can just vote it in and or vote it out and tweak from there. But I think we've opened a discussion and a good conversation, and so certainly have some things to think about. So with that, I'm gonna say let's move on to the next item is a little bit easier subject and probably not as long, and that's about cooperation and uniting the efforts between the Studio City Public Library and the Rec Center on cross promotion and co-sponsorship of future events. Julie, I see your video is up, and I saw Emily is here from the library. Can you guys, how can we better coordinate our messaging across all of our platforms? In other words, where you're talking about things that we're doing, we're talking about things that you're doing. Now, we started doing that obviously with the library a little more in depth this last month or so. We've been promoting some things, doing some cross promotion, but how do we get ourselves working together, and even to the point where we're coordinating some events together that might be fun to do, maybe involving kids, maybe who knows.
I can speak. It's Emily. I'm sorry I don't have my camera on. It's been a very long day, so I apologize. I think, you've always done a great job promoting our events, and especially in the last couple of months, so we really, really appreciate that. And we have also always enjoyed doing events with the Neighborhood Council. I don't know if it's a matter of, maybe as we go on, sitting down together and kind of just brainstorming what kind of events we'd like to partner on, or if you kind of want, if you want to hear about the things that we're already working on to see if you'd want to be part of them, and vice versa in terms of partnership on events. That might be something that could be good in the future. And then that way we could be working on something that we, both are really invested in. I mean, we already do work with your, the Cultural Affairs Committee a lot, and we have Mary Mallory who comes and presents a fair amount, and those programs always go really well. We just did one last month. They've got about 30 people online, which is pretty good for online. So
yeah, that's a good number.
Yeah, and we're going to do another one in August, though we haven't set a date yet. So so that would be my suggestion, that maybe, I can talk to Veronica about either we get together like on a Zoom, a smaller Zoom call, or when we can be in person, get together in person and kind of talk about the directions that we're all thinking of going and what we could partner on in the future. And then in terms of social media, I think, one thing is I handle our branch's social media. So one thing is you can shoot me an email if something is especially important that you really want an extra boost on. And, and I can also look out for things as well. I mean, I think there's a limit to the amount we can post per day without
driving
people crazy. So, but, I'm always happy to boost things that you want boosted. So
certainly things like when we had a town hall, we had a couple of very important town halls. One was about race, and then the other one was about just sort of a check-in with people. It's kind of a community gathering more than anything online, but a chance for us to all connect and say, hey, how you doing? We've been locked up in our house for a few weeks. What are you thinking?
Exactly.
Are you climbing walls or what? So those were two things that I think we could have probably certainly used the library resources to help promote. But Julie, you're with the rec center, so tell me about what's the situation there, and how can we, I'm sure, now you're a little more limited because of the separation, but like I'm imagining you guys have got to be chomping at the bit to get some of these programs going again.
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I used to be part of a neighborhood council years ago. I was in it for, I don't know, 10, 11 years with Sun Valley. So it's really good to see that, you know, coming back to a neighborhood council and seeing that there's such a group of eager individuals trying to do good for the community and promoting good events. So I'm glad that I'm taking part on this. Unfortunately, I'm not at the park at the moment. I'm working at a COVID shelter, so Adam is the only one that's there. We're running camp. Today was the first day. We had about 40 kids, 37 to 40 kids. We have a lot of special events throughout the year that we would love for the neighborhood council to partake in and have that partnership that we once used to have. Some of the events that we have are like our Halloween festival that brings anywhere between 700 to 1,000 people. We have our spring egg hunt. We have our holiday breakfast in the winter time. And we'll have, of course, the movies at the park, which is the one that we have had the most partnership with the neighborhood council. We are hoping that, you know, in the coming year, we could put together like a health fair. It's something that both Adam and I have been wanting to do for a while, and we have not been able to do it. So maybe that's something that we can do as a partner, obviously with the library, which we work very close with in now with you.
Well, all of the above sounds great to me. And I went to the pancake breakfast at Christmas time.
Yes, you did.
Who is the elf we met?
June.
Anyway,
that was cute, Grandma Juju.
Yes.
She actually she was one of our recreation assistants and retired last year, but she always comes to the special events. Just always wants to give back to the community. Yes.
So let's definitely keep this open line of communication.
For sure.
And I would love if at some point we can get one of you guys to even join the committee. Door is always open, because that way we can we can make sure that we are walking in lockstep, because we're all, I mean, we can be doing each other's work here and saving each other a lot of trouble. And participation in a 700-person event is something the Studio City Neighborhood Council needs to be doing anyway. Raduca, I'm sorry, we have one person on the phone too.
The phone is me. I couldn't, for some reason, I couldn't get the 2163, the last four, that's me.
Okay. Raduca, go ahead. Sorry.
I wonder if we can actually put this in to be more like a quarterly, where actually we meet automatically. Somebody comes from the library or we go to some library meetings. So it's actually integrated in how we work versus like this random connections, or unless we want it monthly, but just somewhere where actually this is part of the program, where we know every 3 months somebody from the library comes to the meeting, or we go every 3 months to their meetings or something like that. I would love to see that just as an automatic process.
I think it would be smart for us to at least delegate one person, or have one representative attend the meetings for the library and the rec center.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be the same person, but we at least designate somebody to be there to help answer questions and you know, and bring information back to us about what is going on. Hey, what should be on our radar, and should we budget some money to participate in the Halloween festival or whatever it is.
We have we have a park advisory board that meets quarterly. So I think that will be a great place for to have a representative from the neighborhood council sit in those meetings. And of course, Adam and I will come to the meetings as often as we can. Okay. And I apologize in advance that I'm not able to stay for the whole meeting. I'm actually working at a COVID shelter, so I have to get going. But
mean
I
people need
provided my
help?
information to Randy. So I provided my information to Randy, and please feel free to reach me. And we are, like I said, looking forward to this reestablishing this partnership with the neighborhood council.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you for coming,
Mhm.
and we'll keep
course.
talking.
Okay, great. Nice meeting all of you, even for. Sorry,
Thank
I
you.
said nice meeting everyone, even through video.
And I will say, this is Emily again. At the library, we don't tend to have big meetings. We just have very small staff meetings to kind of do check-ins. But maybe there would be a way to arrange, and I can talk to Veronica about this, kind of regular just conference calls with you or something to, keep you abreast of things, something like that.
Well, the encouraging thing is that we're talking for the first time in a long time, right?
Right.
In an official capacity. And that to me is, that's half the battle, is we're actually showing up for each other. And that's a great first step. So let's continue doing what we're doing. And again, the library is always invited to our meetings. They're public. And we'll continue to promote your events as we come across them. We love your weekly emails, your newsletter.
Thank you.
And that's where I kind of cherry pick a couple of things that stand out to me, and I try and duplicate those on the Scnc site, which Reduca has grown by 188% in the last 30 days. 188% increase in engagement. That's beyond impressive. Beyond impressive. And I would wish I could take credit for some of it. I can't. It's been all of your postings. So very great. All right, next item up is now we're kind of getting into a couple of the expenditures things. These probably won't take quite as long.
Michael, before you move forward, can we also connect with other like BID or some other organizations which are quite important to spread the word? So certainly the library, but what other local either organizations or?
Well, there's the SCRA, which Barry is vice president of.
Okay, so
we have there are some positions which are formalized as liaisons. So one, yes, Barry Johnson is not only affiliated, but he's a board member of the SCRA. I've been exchanging emails with Alan Diamond, who's president of the SCRA, and he and I are going to get together because I believe there should be increased communication and dialogue between the two organizations, as ultimately we have Studio City in mind. We have a liaison for the BID, which is going to be Lisa Karajian, because she's already dealing with them in many cases. We have the Chamber of Commerce. Actually, I've already reached out. So if someone else wants to do it from this committee, that's great. But I intend to also be regularly speaking with the Chamber. We also have the SCBA, the Beautification Association. So I was already in touch with them as well. And so my goal is not just to have one conversation, and even stakeholders at some point will probably start to complain that a catchphrase of mine is, I hope this is the first of many conversations. So we are reaching out. I think we can formalize that if we want to kind of systematize it, that someone is going to meetings would be great and beneficial. And so if there are people on this committee that are willing to do that, then I think that would be wonderful. Certainly I can't do everything, and it's not the Randy hour. It's all about all of Studio City. So if you, for example, wanted to volunteer and say, hey, you know what, every 3 months, for example, I'll go to a chamber meeting as an example. And great.
Right. So that's great that there are all these people connecting with all these different things, but shouldn't all this somehow reach back to us, basically, because not to us, but to this committee, so that we are all informed about what everybody else knows, because that's sort of the issue about not doubling on things.
Well, when you have a liaison, for example, they're going to be reporting back to, for example, Lisa Karajian is a BID liaison. One of the things that she will have to do is she'll report back to the board So whether if we were to choose, I suppose, to ask her to come to a committee meeting or more, seems more appropriately, Michael would receive that report when he gets it as a board member, or as you would as well. And then that could be a brief that comes up in then in an outreach meeting to make sure everyone's informed. Additionally, my hope moving forward, something that Nancy and I also discussed, is that committee chairs write out their reports in advance of meetings. And so the same will be true for liaisons. So that way the public there's greater transparency and the public can see what's going to be spoken to at a meeting. So I'm right with you, Raduca, that we have to do a much, much better job of getting information out and sharing with everyone. That way we're not doubling up work, but as well that people see that we're actually trying to be connectors and push issues forward.
And I also would say in the interest of time and the time consumption at the board meetings is so extreme that it's okay to submit a written report from a committee. Not everybody has to speak on everything. If you don't have a motion and it was a committee meeting where things were discussed, we talked about about doing this or doing that and revising mission statement, put it in a report and attach it to the agenda, but it doesn't need to be spoken on in the public forum. Now we're probably going to have some expenditures out of this one, so I can't get rid of it from the outreach perspective in the next meeting, but it's something that definitely I'm all in favor of moving everybody along and keeping it as efficient as possible too. So
Michael,
yeah,
it's Nancy. I've had my hand raised, but I don't think
I
you're
apologize.
I don't think you're looking at it, so I'm going to go like this next time. I think that it's really important right now that we clarify, especially when the Park and Rec and the library we're talking, our role as the Studio City Neighborhood Council Outreach Committee versus the Cultural Affairs Committee versus our purpose, right? So us participating and partnering is different. Like we do Luminary or whatever, we partner with people. That's a thing. But another thing is we're a vehicle of communications. And I think that we need to be clear about what our purpose is in that way.
Well, as far as my thoughts, it's that we're supporting each other's programs and initiatives, and our outreach committee itself is going to have some initiatives and programs going forward, things we want to do, but there will also be things that Rex and Parks is doing and the library is doing that we want to partner with them on, and maybe it'll make sense to hand say a Halloween event over to a cultural affairs or something, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's something that we feel passionate about as a committee, and we want to take the lead on it as far as partnering with the rec center. So I think it's going to be more like we have to decide item by item, but our main role for sure I see as being that connective tissue where everything is, where the different bodies are talking to each other, so that we can so that there's one place where the information is flowing, and that if Randy or you or the head of budget has wants to know what's going on, they can ask us, and we've got the answer as far as the involvement between committees, right, and organizations.
And don't forget sustainability, because there was a lot of partnerships with that committee and outreach.
Yes, Barry. In support of Nancy, I think that we can, to use your words, Michael, partnering, we can partner with these organizations, Park and all that, in terms of communication and how we spread the information, and let other committees partner with them in events. So we are, and I agree with, if I understand what Nancy is saying, that we are a communication thing. So we should, not communication, but like spreading the information. So we partner with them in terms of spreading their information, and they spread ours, and let events done either through cultural and some other, like even sustainability if it comes back. That's it.
When it comes back.
Okay, when it comes back.
Wait.
I'm first in line.
So just to clarify, are we saying then that outreach's primary purpose is as a hub of information to disseminate what's going on that we're aware of, but attendance or support in that way would not be automatic? It would be on a case by case, though I would imagine we're always encouraged to attend each other's stuff just on a voluntary basis. Am I tracking that?
That's
plus
what
the,
I feel.
plus the financial commitment. Allie,
And the
that's
time commitment.
Yeah,
So
the
yes,
time
Allie, that's what I think. The fact that we have, yeah.
No, I think clarifying that it's primarily communication that we're sharing at this point.
And awareness, right?
Awareness, yeah. Communication, awareness, all of that, yes. But that's a lot. That's sort of the main. I think the language that you use right now, hub of information, maybe should go in the mission statements. I think that's a great, actually quite a great language, and somehow can go in there. Because that's our mission, is to increase awareness, increase information, move the information along, actually. Just keep moving it. And because that's what I'm doing. I just don't sit on information. I just keep moving it along. So that's sort of what I feel.
And to that, I think from a financial point of view, it's something also Nancy and I think it was in our talk, but is about regarding the, in terms of budgeting, that we've kind of returned to regular order, that instead of items coming forward at a board meeting for financial requests, that there's it's not this case by case, that that something's brought to budget committee and then brought to the board, and instead of doing this piecemeal, I would say, for example, budget, we should allocate, in my opinion, we should budget, whether it's $10,000 or 12,000 or 8,000, whatever amount you think is appropriate, I think, and map out. I think it's better to say this X amount, because I think Alexandria had mentioned it before about kind of a budget. A budget says a lot about what your intentions are of where you're going to spend money. And so I think that if our goal really is outreach, then the outreach committee should think about how much money it may need. And so whether it's a mailing, as Nancy mentioned, to every household, which might, at that first shot, might be $5,000-$6,000, in addition to other monies of what you're going to need on the back end to support that, how that information may come back, whether that's through a QR code that's printed on that, but people might say, what on earth is this ink blot on the postcard? I don't want the Chinese getting my information. Whatever you might hear, I think that whatever the messaging is, right? I think that you build that budget out, and so that way, the outreach committee, my suggestion would be is that you have kind of you begin to map out a plan for the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and identify targets, so that way you know if you're actually succeeding. That's my kind of personal opinion. That way you can, one, begin to create metrics to know if you're actually on point and on target. Two, you have some runway, and if the budget committee, via budget committee, the board has already approved a bucket of money, if you will, then you can kind of decide and fast track once that's approved, down your plan and execute. And you won't have to say, well, it's a great idea, but now we're gonna have to wait on the board every step of the way. And then it kind of becomes this, I think, disjointed. You can, and so that would be my suggestion on the financial front.
Okay. I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to call a 2-minute break because I have to use the restroom and I can't help it.
Don't forget to mute the mic.
These are killing me. No, everything goes dark. But y'all can continue amongst yourselves for 2 minutes and I'll come back and we'll move on.
Hey, I got a question. Randy, do you know what our current, what I would like to find out is what our current outreach actually is, so we can have metrics and know if we're succeeding?
Sure, that's a great question. So I think unfortunately in the last year, and those stakeholders are still on, deserve to know this, the outreach has been, it's a technical term, bupkis, Yiddish meaning nothing. Outreach didn't really exist. It was at least in a formal plan. I will say though, however, in the last, I would say, pandemic era, as a subset of the board kind of answered the charge of being proactive and actually trying to lead and make a difference and do something. Elements within Studio City actually came to, of NC came to life. Rebecca Kaplan, for example, with dizzying amounts of posting, to her credit, to kind of activate the algorithms of Facebook to just have us circulating more and increasing. The stats were about 1,500 people per day on average were engaging with Studio City Neighborhood Council posts.
Was that on Facebook?
That was on Facebook. That's a big number.
It is.
In fact, talking about and looking at metrics, for example, about where we would even broadcast Zoom meetings and live streaming, our YouTube channel has 79 subscribers. So that didn't, but Facebook, we're getting 1,500 interactions every day. That's made more, it'll make, in my mind, makes more sense for us.
How many followers?
I'd have to look it up. Brazuka might know off the top of her head. We have Instagram. We have Instagram and Twitter have less, but Facebook, in terms of social media, seems to be our strongest and most active presence. Something probably Michael.
Somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500, I believe.
On Instagram.
On Facebook. And we are third, I believe, among neighborhood councils total. There are a couple that are greater. I think there's one of the beach communities has
probably Venice. Venice
has 2,500. They have almost double ours. But as far as we are twice Sherman Oaks, and we are twice Encino's, 3 times Encino's Facebook coverage, and we are smaller. So
Sherman Oaks has like double the population of us.
Yeah. And I think they have 800 subscribers.
We currently have 1,989 people following Studio City on Facebook.
There you go.
1,700 likes.
What about our email list?
Thank you, Raduca. So our email list currently on MailChimp, we have a total of 3,096 email addresses. Of those who've opted out or have taken a break, we actively are emailing 2,061.
So how much crossover do we think there is between these?
Between those that are following us on Facebook and that we're actually emailing?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I could probably look into the, probably look in the metrics.
And how many stakeholders do we think we have?
38,000, I think.
About 38,000.
But that includes children.
But that doesn't include businesses. Is that residents that you're looking at?
Residents, yeah.
That's total population of Studio City. Yeah, well, yeah. So it wouldn't include people that work in Studio City.
Well, businesses and stuff.
Unless they also happen to live here.
Right. So what's the goal?
I would like to see more reaching out to families with children. That's my thing. Because even when I remember, I've been a resident for 20-something years. When I was younger with younger children, I was absolutely not interested to joining any political group. So unless we make it somewhat appealing and fun and really reach to parents, almost 40% of our demographics are families with children. So I don't know.
That's definitely the $1 million question, Raduca.
Well, I have some ideas, but anyway, not for this meeting. But I need some backing and some money.
Quick question, does anyone know the LAUSD schools that are technically in Studio City? I'm not sure if I think Carpenter Elementary is.
Carpenter, Walter Reed.
And Rio Vista.
Yes, that's why I said we need the liaison to go to, and Ali, you're there when we were talking about having representatives go to schools. We never actually ultimately did it because, and now with COVID, but yeah, somebody has to go and talk directly and connect with PTAs, and that can be done through writing, introducing Studio City to to the parent associations, to the principal of the schools or anything, because they can send it out through their mailing.
So Reduca, are you talking about high schools in the boundary or just the
But also
grade?
Carpenter, Colfax, I think, no, Colfax, is Colfax still Studio City? I think so.
You
Colfax
missed me. High
Elementary.
schools. Are you talking about high schools?
No,
Or-
elementary
okay.
schools also.
Elementary schools?
Both, both.
So we also need to
Walter.
have a liaison for the high schools.
I'm sorry, yes.
We also need a high school liaison to all of the high schools in the district, not just LAUSD, but that, and outside of the district, because they still may live in the district, right? Like my kids were in Sherman Oaks for high school, but they lived in Studio City.
Right. Well, there are not that many, Nancy. I mean, literally 4 or 5, like, you're right.
But 4 or 5, they all need to do, all of those kids need to do outreach. They all need to do volunteer hours, and there's poli-sci interest.
Oh, no, I misunderstood. I thought you meant just connecting with them, introducing ourselves, getting.
Oh, I'm talking about forming a youth committee. Doing the outreach to the schools to form a youth committee on the neighborhood council.
Okay.
And start that movement.
Well, that's a bit ambitious. I was talking even like the immediate thing, which is literally having somebody within the committee to
Yeah, I got it.
liaison to the way we have it for the library and the parks. We can have it for schools and, you know, local schools.
Yeah.
Ambition is good, as dreams are free. So I think they're good to have. They're good to have. So I think a youth committee would be great.
And it just comes down to priorities and manpower.
Well,
I will take on high schools.
I think there's one reoccurring theme that outreach needs to remember is that, it sounds cliche, is that if you let someone talk long enough, they'll tell you what to ask for. And so I think that's something we really need to try to, all of us, right? We're all ambassadors for the NC. And so I think that's what we have to do. Go ahead, Alexandra.
I will volunteer as an as a liaison for the schools in Studio City. I can reach out to all the schools, but particularly because I substitute for LAUSD, I have access to their like database, their email database. So I can, and what I've had to do for Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Education Committee, I've had to reach out to lots of different higher ups to try to get our neighborhood purposes grant signed in order to fund the gift cards that we're disseminating to our Sherman Oaks LAUSD schools. So it is, unfortunately, because it's summertime, a lot of the people are out of the office, but they're still responding to emails. So, and yeah, youth committee would be great. We have youth members on the Sherman Oaks board, but we don't have a youth committee, and that's a great idea.
And if you look at the boundaries for the high school for Studio City, probably 90% is North Hollywood High. Small percentage on the west side of Studio City for Grant High School, and a small percentage on the east side for Hollywood High School. But really, it's like 90% North Hollywood.
You've got Campbell Hall, Harvard Westlake, Notre Dame.
No, I'm talking public high schools.
Right, right.
Exactly. Okay. everybody, we're getting a little brain dead, I think. Getting tired. So I can kind of summarize these, the next couple of things kind of all fit together because it's stuff we're going to buy, stuff we want to buy. Randy has issued a request for a different colored t-shirt. So that's something that we're having Arnold, the printer, price out a bunch of things right now for us. He's looking at t-shirts, hats, business cards, if we still need them. I still don't know the status of business cards. Richard Adams had them the last time I checked, but that's something we need to get done. The mailing, he's going to give us a price on the mailing. Our physical banners, the vinyl banners that we have at our events that go over and around table skirts. on 6 foot long. I'm getting new one. I want to get, we need to get new ones printed up with the current graphics because they all have the old fashioned film reel Studio City logo that doesn't, they all need to look like this and like the little thing in the corner there.
Can I make a request?
Yes.
That the banners be the same dimensions as the 2 that we have in the office conference room. And the reason I say that is we've gotten some others for special events over the years, and they've been taller than the table, so they like drag on the ground. The 2 that we have in the office are excellent for not hanging on the ground when you attach them to a table. And if you're in a booth and hanging them at the top of the booth, they don't hang down too far. So if you want, I can find out what those dimensions of those 2 are. One's longer than the other.
Sure, I have them. What I told him when I made the request is is that it should cover a 6 foot long folding table as a skirt. That's sort of,
I think we have a 6 and an 8, but it's the height that's critical.
Yes, of course. And I think is it 72 inches, babe? You do a lot of
36 on
36
both sides,
inches.
I think. I'll look it up.
72
Hold
inches
on.
is the length.
Yeah, but I think it's 36 high.
36. So
yeah, that's too high. The tables are not even 36; they're 30. That's why I'm bringing this up.
Okay.
So
well, I'm
going to go to the office and get the measurements,
Oh,
and I'll let you know.
It's 30, 30, 30. Yeah, it's 30 inches high, 30 across, and then 30 down.
Yeah, not good at all. The 2 we have in the office are perfect for all our events, and one is a little longer than the other, but Richard can attest to this. I guess he's not still with us, but yeah, for all the different events, even thinking back to the thing we did, the National Night Out, it worked really well.
And I want those things, and I want to use them more, especially when we do something like a farmer's market morning. When we have a folding table set up that they bring, we should have a banner to go under it with our logo on it, so it's not just a table sitting there.
You may want to consider a pop-up behind the table. It's really nice when you've got the height because it brings the attention to it.
Absolutely, or both.
And on the color thing, Randy, will be, the logo has a particular color. So I think this is like the dumb thing to say, but I think it also matters about how you guys end up how we all end up tying together our logo colors with whatever new t-shirts, stuff like that. I think all that matters for a look of finesse.
We could also, we could also do like a forest, like a dark, if he wants a darker color, we could do a forest green with white. That's something that would be still within the color palette of things that has been.
We have plenty of T-shirts. It's not a
front burner thing.
Well, no, I was even thinking banners and stuff. Just like that.
Oh, yeah.
We probably want to pick a palette and just everything from stationery to that is a palette that is signature Studio City Neighborhood Council. Banners, tablecloths, chairs, whatever.
Isn't that the slide that Michael has been using tonight when he's not on screen?
Those are the primary colors of the logo, and just a decision about if everything is white background or whatever. Just throwing that out there as something to consider in the future, not tonight, but having a clean palette so everything complements. Right now we're a mishmash of a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, my biggest mishmash complaint is that we're still using the old logo in certain circumstances, and that
exactly
is the worst possible situation.
Exactly.
Michael.
Yeah.
Can you reach out to all the committee chairs to see what their needs are for outreach merchandise? Like, for instance, as a bylaws chair, I wouldn't need any business cards for anybody. And I wouldn't need any banners ever, but each chair might have something different that they need that we don't know about.
Yeah, we can certainly ask the question. These are just certain things that I think we need to get rolling as sooner rather than later. The first is these vinyl banners for the next time we are allowed to go somewhere and cover something or be represented somewhere. the Community Service Award, we're working with Arnold. He's going to put us in touch with a trophy shop in Burbank to get that done. And then just a simple document for the print. And then the mailing, he's going to get back to us on. He's going to give us, he was saying it's going to be quite expensive for a full mailing.
But I don't know if you saw Julie's note. That might be something to combine with the rec center because they've got 4,200 already on blah, blah, blah. There was a note in the check the chat after.
Okay. So the next thing is budget requests. After I get this information from Arnold and we price out and get the dimensions that Barry's going to give us of the other banner, so I can give him a specific size. How do I create this budget request? How does this process go from here so we can allocate that money so it is sitting there for us to simply place place the requisite, the
request.
The request. Thank you.
I make a motion that we submit to the budget committee the final numbers you get from Arnold as a budget request for outreach for 2020 and 21. And then
we're going to go beyond that, are we not? Because I think those numbers you're looking at there probably $7,000-8,000, and we're going to be covering things like, we want to partner up with the for the holiday festival on Tahunga, and we're talking about maybe doing something with the Halloween and with the rec center, and some things like that that we're gonna want to contribute to.
Are we talking 2021?
I'm gonna let Randy. Is Randy on the phone?
I'm here.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like that we can immediately get a budget request in this month to the budget committee so that we can get it motion on at the board meeting. But we can't do it with events because we don't know what they are. We don't know what that amount would be.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I would, when it comes to events, I would probably, unless you have a sense, which we might be able to get, at least as it relates to Tahunga, but even that, I probably would defer on any budgeting for events for right now, since LA is actually moving backwards in terms of pandemic and things, and industries are being shut down. I
agree. I was just saying, if I don't want to box us in and say this is all we're going to get for 2020 when there may be other things. That's my only point, is that there may be other expenses.
Yeah, I think you just ask for more, and I think that's all how you present it. You say this is our budget specifically for outreach that we have thus far. It's going to cover these several items, and if you can say including but not limited to, and everything, even if a percentage of the budget is allocated to outreach, it still has to go through a normal qualifying process through the city clerk's office and as a verified expense. It can't be for something willy-nilly. So I don't think, in my opinion, anyone would necessarily have a problem. We're just earmarking that money for purposes of outreach, but each individual purpose still has to be defined.
And as Raduca says, we need to also budget some money to Facebook for doing Facebook promotion that will only grow our number of people. So we need to put a little bit. I don't know what Facebook promotion costs. It's not much, but we should put some money there and have it sitting there in the event that, even something like one of the town halls we do, if we decide we want to promote it, we should have some money sitting there in the budget ready to go to promote that event. And boost it.
I agree.
But I would say, if we were, like, for instance, if the homeless committee were to have a town hall, they should make a budget request for the outreach.
Indeed,
right.
Indeed. But if it's something that we just throw together, like our little town hall that we did to check in, we want to boost that post for sure. So there should be some money sitting there just to do it.
Right.
Okay, the one thing I need everybody to email. If you look in the chat, I put my email address in there. It's scncmichael@gmail.com. Everybody shoot me an email. And and even, you know, because we didn't get a chance to really talk to anybody and get to know y'all and what you can do and what your expertise is. Give me a little something about what it is you're interested in helping with too. And this is for people who are on the committee and not on the committee, because we talked about that at the beginning of this meeting about 2 hours ago. But I figured I want to wrap this by 9:30 because people have lives and I don't want to go on beyond that. But
hey, Michael.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention I was fortunate enough to be in on an interview shooting Barbara Ferrer last week, and I take her word. She really is saying until there's 60 or 70% people vaccinated, there's not going to be any kind of large gatherings, even small gatherings, of the type we do in a given year. So, and I don't really right now see that happening in calendar year 2020.
Right.
So just for fuel,
noted, yeah.
Food for thought for everyone.
No, absolutely. And I don't think we're all, I think we're all kind of planning on that too, you know, understanding that we're in a holding pattern on that kind of thing. But please shoot me your email and tell me what interests you and how you want to participate, whether it's going to one of these high schools or maybe it's more in the helping with I'm going to need somebody to follow up on getting the trophy made for this public service award. You know, we need some bodies just to handle some things because I can't do, you know, I can't do everything here through just myself or delegate it all to Nancy or whatever. So anything you guys can help with, let us know. Let me know in the, I put my email over in the chat. Let's keep communicating, and we'll have a lot of emails flow in this next month about things we're doing and things where, you know, as I find out information on money, we'll talk about that. Certainly Library Emily, keep me up to date on what you're doing. And we'll continue that to promote there. And thoughts about where we want to go with the next meeting. We're going to have we'll have another meeting in 1 month's time. It's going to go by before you know it, especially in our current situation. These months are clicking off really fast. So
how are you wanting to manage the mission statement?
I think the people who are committee members let's shoot some language back and forth, ideas, and we'll form something and then present it to the committee next committee meeting. We'll bring it forward. Okay. So it's kind of like just homework, I guess. Anything else anybody has? Well, the main thing is hopefully Arnold gets back to us in the next few days so I can put a budget request in with the budget committee to get that money allocated at the next board meeting so we can go on it once we get numbers.
Who's doing Instagram these days?
That's Alexa.
Oh, okay.
So, and I'm always forwarding her stuff to post. So if you see something, just email it to her and say, hey, this will go great on Instagram. And she's really responsive. She gets it up there pretty quick.
Is anyone doing Twitter?
That's a Randy question. I don't know.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. So currently, no. There has been a post here or there, but it's not something that is consistent. So if there's someone, for example, on this committee that would want to do that, I would love to see someone pick that up. I'd love to say that I'm more consistent. I could be more consistent on that, and if need be, I can. But typically, I'm more often than not on Facebook. And then just trying to juggle everything else. But if someone would be interested in discussing that further, my email is in the chat line, and I'm happy to discuss.
I think these days Instagram is better than Twitter. So it's almost like if you do Instagram, you don't need to do Twitter.
Twitter is a great news source. I think people turn to Twitter specifically for news, hard news. That seems to me to be the purpose that it's been sort of morphed into. So if we have something that's like super informational, like stay in your home, there's there's a shootout going on Ventura Boulevard or something crazy, you know, that's something we would want to Twitter blast right away and connect with our stakeholders. We had something really crazy happen in the hills and next door too. That's another thing we need to represent on heavily, because the next door community is larger than the Twitter community as far as people we're connecting with.
Right.
So that'll be something you can talk. Actually, we have a couple people on this call. I
just
know
put
for
on
sure
some
that
armor
are-
before
that
you
are
post anything on Nextdoor.
that are quite active on Nextdoor. That Nextdoor, actually, I have been posting on, not daily, but I have been posting on Nextdoor as well. Actually, I even remember my first post. I had someone trolling me, but that's okay. That's why not?
Yeah, I was going to say, put on your battle armor before posting anything there.
So it's okay, like water off a duck's back. Yeah, I think that's we can talk about next. You can maybe talk in the next meeting about systematizing that. I just want to quickly let you know that Lana for budget has not set a meeting as of yet, so I don't know 100% that she's even going to have a meeting before our board meeting, which is already next week. But that's something that's up to, you know, we can touch base. We can talk about that more offline, and I can talk to her tomorrow in the meeting.
Okay. So with that, I'm gonna say let's call this meeting adjourned. And again, everybody, please shoot me your emails. I really mean it when I say I want us all to be working together on stuff. It's very important to me that this is the ground floor of a new era for the SCNC, where we are connecting with each other, we're communicating with each other, and we're caring about each other. I think that's and showing gratitude towards one another and what you all do for the community on your own. I think we're entering a new era of outreach, and we're entering a new era for the council, led by Randy and Nancy. And I think we're heading into like a very, very positive era of a lot of production and a lot of communication and a lot of involvement with our community. And I hope they see our enthusiasm as much as we feel our enthusiasm. I hope we get to project that and get that back in return from them. But thank you all for coming tonight. And this is just the start, just the start.
Great job.
Hey.